My name is Mark Miner. I am an investigative writer and author. In my travels, I've investigated many people and places. Watch as I seek out stories that are typically outside of the box of normal. I am the Seeker.
Welcome back to another episode, guys. So we're up here in the Cascade Mountains and we're about ready to go up on Browder Ridge, which is right up there. And so how you get here is going east on Highway 20 if you're coming from the coast, and west if you're coming to the state of Oregon on Highway 20. And you'll want to look up Browder, Browder Ridge. And there's quite the history here for me. And so I'm going to be taking some breaks as I hike up this ridge, and I'll be telling you the stories of why I'm here and why I'm revisiting this place. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I am not going to have you follow with me. We're just going to kind of touch up off and on, so that you can't be seeing me struggling up a hill. So anyways, I will let you go now, and welcome back to another episode, and let's go on an adventure, and I'm going to tell you some really cool stories, okay? So see you in a bit. Bye. Alright guys, so I'm about 2 miles in on the trail, and so where this trail leads is to Heart Lake, obviously, and it's 11.6 miles to the lake. I have been up here, I think this is my 4th time, and I've never yet gotten to the lake because of certain circumstances that didn't allow us to. So I want to tell you the first story. There are like 3 stories I have to tell, but I'm going to do one here, and then the very first, how it all started, and then when we get further on the trail, I'll take another break and tell you another story. Further on the trail, another break, another story, okay? So this was about 8 years ago, and a friend of mine who was also my roommate came up with, like, we liked to go hiking a lot back then, and that's pretty much all we did. And he wanted to go to Heart Lake. He heard about it and stuff like that, so I thought, yeah, let's do it. At the time, I was like extremely heavy. I think I was like 300 pounds at the time. And so when we got to this trail, it's a rather difficult trail. Let's put it that way. It's not advanced, but it's very hilly. So it's a lot of going uphill, a lot of going downhill. So it's a pretty difficult trail. So I'm not in the best shape now. That's why I'm kind of breathing hard. However, okay, so we came here, and we at the very first of the trail, you have to like switch back on a mountaintop, and so that really got me winded. And then it kind of evens out, and then it goes peaks, valleys, and then way big mountain, right? So we took a lot of breaks to pee, to smoke, to catch our breath and stuff like that. So we got probably, I would say, about 10 miles in. We were almost there, and I was done. I was so done with the terrain and the length, the miles, and being 300 pounds, carrying a heavy backpack. I was done. So I told my friend, let's just camp here for the night, and then we'll go down to the lake in the morning. And he's like, okay, that's cool. So we got to a really high peak. Hopefully we'll get there today. Really high peak, and we camped out. There was kind of snow on the ground, and it was in July, which is this month. That's how high we're gonna go. So I think it's like 5,746 feet in elevation. So we camped, we set up our camp, we cooked our dinner, and about ready to turn in, and I'll show a picture of us right here. Okay, so we got ready to go to bed, and it was dark, and we had the campfire, we had guns on us, we had flashlights and stuff like that, And we heard something walking in the woods next to us. Now, we're just right off the trail, so it could be somebody, but when we heard the footsteps, we didn't see no like flashlight or anything, and it was pitch dark. So who would be hiking in pitch dark with no flashlight, right? So we got our flashlights out, floodlights, whatever, and we pointed at the trail. And on the trail, there was, I'm going to try to describe as best as I can, okay? So there was a boy. I would say he's about 10 or 11, and he had on no shirt, no shoes, no socks, just like these really skimpy gym shorts. I would say like the type you wore in the 70s. For those of you who were in the 70s, you know what I'm talking about. For those who weren't, you just have to look that up. So anyways, if it matters to you. So we just kind of watched this kid, and he was looking like he was dazed, so he wasn't walking very fast. And so we kind of waited, We had this big old view of the trail, so he was walking rather slow. And then we noticed there was nobody with him. So we're like, hey kid, hey kid. He wasn't answering. So I took my gun, my friend took his gun, and we ran up to the kid, and we looked around with our flashlights. There's nobody there. The kid seemed confused and very dazed. He had no marks, no bruises, no blood, nothing on him. And he didn't seem like he was cold, although we're up there with some of the snow. I would say it was probably 50 degrees outside, so he was probably a little cold. Anyways, we decided to bring him back to the campfire to see if we can get him to talk. And he just wouldn't. He just would stare off into space. He would just like put his face down. He wouldn't talk at all. When he did look at you, he had the glassy eye, like he was not there, right? So we decided to wait till morning, and we put him in my tent. I have a very small single man tent for hiking, and my roommate had like a 2-man tent, 3-man tent, like 2 rooms. So I slept in his tent with him, and we put the kid in mine. And we were kind of hoping he would just stay in that tent and not wander off. But anyways, morning came. He was still in the tent. He came out. We gave him some of our clothes. We put like 3 or 4 pairs of socks on him because we didn't have shoes to fit him, and gave him a shirt and all this other stuff, and packed up. And so he wouldn't wander off, I put a rope around my wrist and put a rope around the kid's wrist. We had to get back down the mountain to call park rangers or whoever, because we had no cell phone service up here. So anyways, we get down the mountain. Long story short, we get down the mountain. It was quite the hike down. Again, 10 miles. And we finally got service around 8 miles, the 8-mile mark. And so we looked it up because we didn't know the number. And we called and told them where we were at. And they said to wait there, that they would come. And so forest rangers came, and then there was a state trooper who came, and then we had to wait around forever. It took hours. They got our stories. We had to tell our story probably 10 or 12 times. FBI agents came, which was really odd to us. We weren't allowed to leave the side of our vehicle, and they came over to question us. We told the story again. We gave all our information to them, and then they said, okay, you can leave. Well, after being put through all that, I had some questions. I'm like, what's going on? Who's this kid? Why is he lost? And so the FBI agents just walked off. State Patrol was busy with some forest rangers, but there was a forest ranger next to us, probably about 5 feet away. And so I went and asked him, what's up with the kid? Like, is he going to be okay? Is he going to go to foster home? What's going to happen? And the forest ranger told us that kid had gone missing some years back. And so I'm like, well, how long was he out there? He wasn't dirty or anything. It looked like he's well taken care of. Like, he even had a full stomach, like he'd been eating. And the forest ranger said that he had disappeared in the 70s. Yeah. So I just stared at him. my roommate just stared at him, and I'm like, how can that be? That kid can't even be but 10 or 12 years old. And he said, that's all I can tell you. If we find out anything further, we'll call you and inform you and let you know. Never got a call from them. This is years later. Never got a call from anybody. And so that was the first experience of being up here, what I call the Heart Lake, which is the Browder Ridge Trailhead. So that's the first story and how it all started. And so I was enthralled by this place. Something is not right about these mountains, and so you'll understand what I'm going to talk, what I mean by that when I take a break and tell you the next story. Meanwhile, I'm going to get back on the trail and go a little bit further, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. Okay, guys, I'm about 4.5 miles in. I'm a little out of breath, and I'm sweating as all God get out. So we're going to take a break here. So I'll tell you the second story. So the second story was about 2 years later. And I took a different friend. So from the first story, my roommate had moved out, got married. And so I lived alone for a while and then got another roommate. And this roommate and I decided to come up here and camp. So I didn't tell him about the first story, the roommate, because I didn't want to scare him, and he was a little skittish anyways. He wasn't a very good outdoorsy person, so I didn't want to frighten him. But I wanted to come to the same location to see if anything else weird would happen. And so we came up, and we didn't go in as far as me and my first roommate did. I think we went in maybe 6 miles, so we should be coming up on it here soon. And we camped, and it was hard getting the fire started because it was kind of rainy, the ground was wet, and so of course, since we're backpacking it, and we don't carry wood, so we just use what wood that's on the floor. And as you can see, there is a lot of limbs on the ground. So you're not short of firewood here. You can't take it off a tree, that's illegal, but you can pick up what's on the ground. So we finally got the fire started. It was dark. We had our tent set up, but I didn't get a chance to build a safety barrier around the camp. Some people do it with string and tin cans. Some people just do it with string. All I had was like 2 lanterns that I kept lit to keep the campsite somewhat lit, as well as our fire. So we're sitting there, we're talking. We had, just very light dinner, like hot dogs and stuff. And we were both standing up around the fire and smoking cigarettes, and we heard this loud crack off in the woods. And of course we went quiet, and my roommate's kind of freaking out, so I'm telling him to be quiet. And all of a sudden, I don't know how to explain the noise. We heard like a whoosh sound in the air, like something was coming at us. And about 4 or 5 feet to my right, this really big branch. Let me see if I can find one that's about that size. See that tree right there, that thin tree? That one right there, that's in the center of your screen. It was about that big around and probably as tall. It was big. It was big. So it just crashed right next to me. So I of course had to investigate. It startled both of us. I had to investigate, so I took my flashlight and was looking around. There's no trees that were bent over, cracked anywhere near our campsite. So it had to have been across the trail, because we were right off the trail. It had to have been in the woods across the trail. Now, who or what threw that thing that far, I don't know. So it took a while to calm down my roommate, and he had his own tent. I had my own tent. Again, I had the same tent as the last time, just a hiking one-man tent. He had a one-man tent, but it was a little larger. And we went to bed, but our tents were really close together. My roommate was so freaked out most of the night because every little noise, raccoons, squirrels, anything that comes out at night, which most of them won't harm you. Anything that made noise, it freaked my roommate out. So I didn't get much sleep. He didn't get much sleep. And in the morning, about 4 or 5 in the morning, he was ready to go. We were cold. We were somewhat wet because of the dampness. And we left. Nothing happened on the way back down the mountain. But to this day, I don't know what threw that tree that far. We heard no noises, no roars, no growls, no hoots, no hollers, nothing, just the tree that came flying at us. So that's the second story. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go, and I'm going to get further up the trail, which is that away, and I will talk to you soon. I'm going to tell you that I wanted to come confront this mountain one more time, but I believe this is my last time coming here. I'm going to go to other areas, but I don't know what goes on in these mountains. I know something weird happens in these mountains, but I guess it's just going to remain a mystery. So I don't know. I'm hiking alone, probably camping alone tonight, and so it's not a safe thing to do usually, but the person I was supposed to come with bailed on me again, so I'm going to kind of contemplate whether I want to come back to this mountain, which I don't think I will at this point, and what I'm to do on this trip. So anyways, I'm going to go hiking some more, and I will see you guys in a little bit, okay? Bye. Okay, I didn't go too far on the trail, but I'm hearing something like walking behind me, and then when I turn around, there's nothing there. So, I don't know if you can see, I don't see anything. It's like twig snaps and dirt being kicked up, so I don't know what's going on. So anyways, okay, I thought I'd touch base with you guys. It's a little bit weird being out here by myself. It's very unsafe. Anybody who goes on this trail usually does it in pairs because it is a difficult trail and there's a lot of wildlife out here. So I do have protection on me, but yeah, that kind of freaks me out a little bit. Okay, so see you guys in a little bit. Alright guys, so I went to about 6 miles up, went to look out like a little ridge. I didn't film up there. I was feeling a little uneasy. I know something that just gave me the heebie-jeebies a little bit, so I decided to turn around and come back down the mountain. And so here we are. We're on the trail, so we're switched back down this mountain, so you guys can walk with me. And when I get back down to my car, it's not what I intended on doing. It wasn't my plan, but I'll tell you the story there, the last story. And that's the big one. That's the one that really caused me to not come here for many years, so to speak. So I'll let you look at the trail that I'm walking on. Yeah, it's got quite a decline. So it's a very narrow trail. So as you can tell, you're actually switchbacking up this mountain, side of this mountain. This is the way we came. This is where we're going. So you have to be super vigilant walking on these trails because there's a lot of roots and the such. And you got to really watch your breathing, because if you're not really monitoring your breathing, you'll get so out of breath and wore out that by the time you get to the very top peak, right now I'm at an elevation of about 4,200. So I went up to about 4,800. So I went about 600 feet in elevation. It's quite the climb. And of course, the full elevation is 5,200 and some odd change. So, which I did do. And so I do have a picture of that in the past, but I don't want to use that picture. I just want to use what I got today. So anyways, so yeah, we're gonna go back down to the car, and that way I can get a good break. Also, you want to be hydrated. So today's about 82 degrees. It's not too bad, but it's enough to make you sweat and lose hydration. So I always carry plenty of water on me, and then I always carry like a sugary drink because I am diabetic, and snacks. So you always want to come prepared, right? Check this out. That's a tree root. That is so gnarly. Anyways, that's the trail we just came from. This is the trail we're coming down. There's the cars over there. I don't know if you can see them. So there are plenty of people on this trail. And here's the sign. Yeah, they want us to clean weed seeds off our shoes. So, so it doesn't, you don't bring in stuff and you don't take out stuff. All right. We got a car coming. And here's the sign for that. It's 3409. All right. Let's get in. This is the road. I've never went on this side. The forest here is pretty thick. So people come up here and they'll spend all day. I mean, it probably does take all day. So it's a good trail. All right. Let me get my keys out. All right, guys. So let's get this unlocked. Alright. So I'm gonna grab my drink. We're gonna come over here for a second. Oh, there's a trail right here. It's like a tiny trail. Oh, it's like a game trail. Huh. Yeah. There's another game trail. Okay. So let's get back to my car. It is hot. It is so hot. Oh my God. Alright, let's get these windows down. Turn down the radio here. Alright. Alright, guys. So, sorry about that. Okay, so last story. So the last story goes like this. So, about a year later from the last trip, which was the second trip I'm telling you about where the tree was thrown into the camp. About a year later, I took another friend. And him and I decided to come back here. Actually, it was me. So, again, this friend is not an outdoorsy person. He was really excited about going camping because he never gets to do that sort of thing. He's more of an indoor kind of guy. And so, I didn't tell him of the other two stories, again, because I didn't want to frighten him or worry him. He wasn't as skittish as my other friend, but he is very conservative, very play it by the book. You know, I don't think I've even heard him cuss. So, This is a rather long story, so I'm going to try to make it as short as possible. So, what happened was we came here, we hiked it up, and we went about, I would say about 8 miles in. We were both a little out of shape at that point, so we only went about 8 miles and decided to camp. I will have to say that campsite after we got done was super impressive. We set up the tents, we set up a campfire, we even had a kettle over the fire. We had a security border around the camp, with alarms set. We had the lanterns on the trees around the campsite, so it was well lit. And that took a lot of work. So the hiking up the 8 miles, setting up the camp, we were pretty much bushed. The funny thing about that story, about that trip was, I didn't bring like your typical camp food. I brought like a 10-pound pork roast. And I decided to just cook the pork roast over, like hang it over the fire from the triangle, whatever, trapeze, whatever. And yeah, that didn't so much work. It burned the string, and so the meat fell into the fire. So, but we were able to get it out and cook it as best as we could by setting it on a piece of wood by the fire. But the outside was pretty charred. The inside was actually not bad. And so we were eating that like a couple of cavemen. And it kind of freaked out my friend because he didn't envision that. I think he envisioned something like the Boy Scouts with weenies on a stick and, marshmallows and s'mores and stuff like that. And I guess I should have did that for him. But anyways, I thought it was funny because we ended up, it took me 4 days to get all that meat out of my teeth. So we went to bed probably about 8. He had a very small tent. I had a very small tent. Excuse me. So went to bed about 8:30, and I fell right to sleep. And I don't know if he did or not, but I woke up sometime late at night. It was very dark, because when we went to bed, it was still kind of light outside, but it was very dark. And I don't know what time it was, but I heard what sounded like somebody running through our camp. That's saying it mild. I would say someone running through our camp in a crazy fashion. Like almost like they were running from the police kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it startled me awake. I had my gun on me. So I got my Glock, and I got in my stance in my tent because I was a little worried at that point. Anyways, I know it sounds very dramatic, but with what happened to me the other 2 times, I felt that was necessary. I called out my friend's name over and over and over and over and over. He wasn't answering, although his tent was not even about 1 foot away from mine. So I didn't know what was going on. I called his name probably 10 or 12 times, and then I heard the thing run through the camp again. This time it hit the side of my tent, and it really freaked me out. So of course I started screaming, not like but I was like screaming, "Who the fuck are you? Why are you in our camp? Don't come anywhere near my tent. I have a gun. I'm gonna shoot you, blah blah blah." I was just going off. And so it got really quiet, but I could hear like this mumbling. You ever hear like someone in another room, like 2 people talking, but it's a mumble and you can't quite make out the words, but you can make out the tone? That's what I was hearing. And so again, I was like whispering and yelling, my friend's name, and he was not answering. And then again, something ran through the camp, and it hit my tent so hard it unstaked a half of my tent. That's how hard it hit my tent. And so I was again screaming, "I got a gun, I'm going to shoot you. You touch my tent one more time and I'm going to shoot you." This went on the mumbling, me screaming at something, the running through the camp, the grunts, the guttural, whatever, went on for about 15-20 minutes. And then it went kind of quiet. I mean, it went quiet. And I don't know what made me do this to this day, but I just laid down and went to sleep. I don't know why. I mean, I went to sleep. Anyways, when I woke up, I heard something outside the camp, and so it startled me. I noticed that the gun was still in my hand, my finger was still on the trigger, and the safety was still off. And that startled me in itself, because that's dangerous. I mean, I actually just went to sleep with a loaded gun in my hand, which I never do that. Anyways, that's just common sense. So it sounded like somebody was messing with like our metal dishes around the campfire. So I put the gun down, I unzipped the tent, I could tell it was light outside, and my friend was cooking a little bit of food and trying to make coffee by the fire. And everything looked normal. And so when I unzipped the tent and stared at him, he said, "Good morning," like that. And I instantly got angry. And I said, "What happened last night?" And he's like, "What do you mean, what happened last night?" And I told him everything that I just told you. And he looked confused. And so I kept repeating the story. And I kept asking him, how could you not hear that? How did you not know? And he said all he remembered was that he got up in the middle of the night, walked outside of our camp, about 500 feet outside of our camp, sat on a log in the dark and ate granola. And I was trying to process that. I was trying to think, why would you do that? And then I remembered he's not an outdoors guy, but I still didn't understand why he did that. So, he wasn't really giving me any answers, and I think he knew more than what I did. And so I got very angry, and I said, let's just pack up our camp and we're out of here. And so, long story short, we packed up our camp. I didn't really talk to him too much. He was kind of looking at me like he was worried, like I was going to go off on him or something. But I was just very annoyed and angry because he wasn't being forthright with me. And so I decided, let's just get the hell out of here. Okay. And so we started back down the mountain, and we weren't talking. He was ahead of me on the trail, and we went, I don't know, a couple miles, and I said, I gotta take a break. And so I sat on this log and I lit a cigarette. And he asked me if I was okay, and I said, I'm okay. I was trying to explain to him that I was just annoyed. I'm the type of person, I don't not like knowing something. I have to figure this out. I got to figure out what was going on. And so he told me he didn't know. And it was just annoying me all over again. And so I said, let's just stop. And he's standing on the trail. I'm kind of off the trail, sitting on this log. And behind me there was a growl. Could have been anything. And so he kind of looked at me with wide eyes. And I just looked at him and went, no, shh. Let you know, be quiet. And so I got up off the log, went to the trail, and I whispered to him, let's just walk down very slowly. Don't make any sudden moves. Don't run. And then always turn around and look at your back. Because if it was a cat, a cougar or whatever, they like to attack you from the back when you're not looking. Any other animal out here will face you. So I thought maybe it was just a cougar. And so, however, as we're walking down the mountain about 6 miles down, 5 of those miles, almost 5 of those miles, something paralleled us in the woods. What that means is when we're on the trail, in the woods right next to us, something was going right through those branches, and it wasn't trying to be quiet. And it was making sounds like that. Well, my friend kept asking me off and on, what do you think that is? What do you think that is? And I kept telling him, just keep walking. And I said, it's just an elk. That's what I kept telling him, it's just an elk. Elk will do that. We're maybe in its territory or something. It's just an elk. But I knew in my head that was not an elk. Whatever it was on 2 feet. I could tell. And whatever it was, the noises it was making was almost like a language. Almost like it was trying to either talk to us or talk to something else. Like maybe there were two of them, three of them, I don't know. And so by the time it was freaking my friend out so bad, by the time we got down to the mountain where we're sitting now, where I'm sitting now, and we got in the car and took off, he was to the point of tears. It was quite. It was very stressful. When I saw him close to tears, I realized he really had no clue what happened the night before. Because if he had, he would have been tearful, right? He would have been freaking out. He would have been whatever. And if it was him, he wouldn't have been able to lie to me. He's not a good liar. So I don't think he really knew what happened. I don't know why he would walk to a log. Maybe he just dreamt that. I don't know. But that's the third thing that happened. The third story that happened on this mountain. And that was years ago. So I've been wanting to come back. I actually tried to come back with my friend Austin. But I got lost and I couldn't find the place. Well, now I know exactly where it's at. So anyways, yeah, I came up here today. And I just wanted to kind of check things out a little bit. I was supposed to camp, but I'm not getting a good feeling about camping here by myself, especially with the history. So I think I'm going to wait for that whole camping trip until I actually have someone with me. I actually took time off of work for this, and again, a friend was supposed to come with me, and I'm a little aggravated that I had to do it by myself. I'm so sorry, guys. I was hoping to do a whole camping trip, but I can't stay overnight by myself. It's just not safe. So maybe we'll set something else up in the future. Okay? Maybe next season. Maybe we'll get down to the bottom of it. Who knows? Anyways, I want to thank you guys for coming along with me. I do have some pictures along the way of when I got up to that peak, and you can see the elevation and the beautiful scenery. So I hope you guys enjoyed yourself, and look forward to some more of this. And I got a couple more hiking trips to do that I'll bring you guys along with. Okay? See you guys later. Bye.